Good morning, Illini! Welcome back to another podcast here with Healthy Illini. I'm Matt Schrock, and I'm glad you're here. I hope you're having a good week. We are into the heart of the semester. You are doing great. You've hit a groove, and we here at Healthy Illini are proud of you. So keep it up. Keep making sure to focus on your health and wellness. Keep listening in so we can help you keep well to excel. And don't let that health get pushed back to the back burner. But I'm going to keep this intro short because I'm excited about our topic today, sexual health. We have some guests here, and this is an important topic, and I want to give them plenty of time, so let's get right into it. Today I'm joined by three guests who are all professionals on staff here at Mckinley. First up is Kate Donaldson. Kate is a sexual health educator working out of the Mckinley Health Education Unit. She has a master's of public health and a certificate in sex counseling. She has worked with a number of national and state organizations in Michigan prior to starting at Mckinley about 3 years ago. Kate, thanks for being here.
Hi, everybody. I'm glad to be here.
Next up, we have Dr. Jackie Beard. Jackie is a licensed psychologist who can be found in the mental health unit at Mckinley. She has a master's degree in counseling and a doctorate in counseling psychology. She has a long history of experience working in and leading counseling centers, especially with college students, and has been part of the Mckinley staff for 7 years. So welcome, Jackie.
Thanks, Matt. I'm excited to be here.
And rounding out our trio is Todd Johnson. Todd is a nurse practitioner that works in the medical clinics here at Mckinley. He has a diverse background in a number of fields that have helped him develop skills in communication, medications, and medical topics. He has a Bachelor of Science in Journalism, a Bachelor of Science in Nursing, Masters of Science in Nursing, and is a board-certified family nurse practitioner. He has worked in nursing for 8.5 years, the last 4.5 of which have been here at Mckinley. Todd, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Matt. I'm glad to be here.
Now, for a lot of students, if you say sex education, for all of us, not just students, if you say sex education, your brain immediately goes to a high school health ed class and a PE teacher telling you about the facts of sex and body. Or if you say sexual health and Mckinley Health Center, immediately the thought is STD testing and free condoms. Now, we do STD testing and we do give free condoms, but there's so much more that goes into it that's just barely scratching the surface. So I'd like all of you to kind of share from your areas of expertise some things that Mckinley do that you want to highlight, or something the student might not be aware that we do here at McKinley.
Yeah, you're spot on, Matt. So many of us did not receive comprehensive, affirming, or accurate sex ed growing up. And that could have been at school, or it could have also been from family and friends. And so you're probably here on campus feeling like you just need more information to be able to understand your body and your sexual health and your identity. And so 2 options for you within Mckinley Health Education Unit. One of those is an individual sex education appointment with me, the sexual health educator. So we can talk about all kinds of different things: safer sex, relationships, pleasure, desire, arousal, and any question or curiosity you can bring to that individual appointment. But you can also connect with Sexual Health Peers, which is one of McKinley's peer education groups, and they host a social media account and have all kinds of different conversations there. Or you can request a workshop for us to be at a workshop or an event and continue different conversations about sexual health there. And Matt, you did mention free condoms, which is funny because we do have safer sex supplies that are available at our health resource centers with just the swipe of your iCard.
Well, from the medical side, yes, we do STD testing, and we do ask a lot of nosy questions there to help us, stratify risk for the student involved. But, we have a full lab, and we can get those tests back pretty quick. Our blood work comes back like the next day. Our testing for gonorrhea and chlamydia, we do multiple times a week during the year. So you can get your results back pretty quick. And we have a pharmacy right here where we can prescribe the medications to treat you if there's a problem. The pharmacy also prescribes birth control pills, or dispenses birth control pills. Emergency contraception is available through our pharmacy. Our women's health clinic, they do birth control and IUD insertions and counseling in those areas. And then we've also, we do a lot of counseling on prescribing PrEP for HIV and even monitoring hormones and stuff for students who are going through gender transition.
And then in mental health, we provide short-term individual therapy sessions, and it's really easy to just call us up, ask for the mental health department, and get on the schedule with one of our providers.
So there's a lot of services that McKinley offers. We're not going through all of them by any means. If you would like to know more, check out our website, mckinley.illinois.edu. You can contact us through email or for a phone call. We're happy to share with more of the services that we do. But that's just kind of a quick highlight of what you can find at McKinley to support you in your journey of sexual health. We could spend a whole podcast just talking about what we do. But I really want to get to the next aspect, which is something that you all touched on when we talked ahead of time that was really important. And is that everyone has a sexual health to care for. So I really want to know, what do you mean by that? Everyone has a sexual health to care for. Are you simply saying that everyone's having sex? Is that what that is? Or what does that involve? What does it mean when you say your sexual health and you need to care for it?
Yeah, so little about sexuality and sexual health is actually about sexual behaviors, like you mentioned, Matt. And everybody's experiencing different things when it comes to taking care of their sexual health. And when we think about it from a holistic or a comprehensive kind of mindset, it really involves that social and emotional health, that physiological and physical health, even intellectual and spiritual. So really comprehensive whole part of ourselves as human beings. I'll give you a few examples. So regardless of identity, regardless of if you're sexually active or not, every person is going to need at some point in their life a wellness exam or an annual exam to check for things like infections or cancer. Every human, every person has self-esteem and self-worth and has the opportunity to be aware and appreciate their body. And every person is going to have to navigate conversations. And that could be in a platonic friendship, like just with a buddy, or that could be in a romantic or a sexual relationship. So it's for everybody. It really is.
Todd, you had mentioned specifically about how it can affect like hormones, and hormones can affect things. That fits a part of it. How does that even fit into when you? Because I think hormones is like biological, chemical, and sexual is separate. How do these two things overlap?
Well, Matt, I mean, your body is full of hormones that do different things, right? Steroid hormones, sex hormones, and metabolic hormones. And really everything comes back to balance. Your body's always trying to be in balance, right? And if you're lacking in certain hormones, it can affect how the rest of your body functions. For example, if your thyroid hormone is up, it's kind of the master metabolic hormone for you. So you may, if it's low, gain weight. You may have a low sex drive. You may be really fatigued. On the flip side, if you're hyperthyroid, there are those people that are like, I eat everything and I just don't gain weight. And they're always hot and their heart is fast. And they're just jazzed and ready to go. They may be, overhyped sex drive. So different hormones at different levels can really affect somebody's aspect on, how they're feeling about their sexuality too.
Honestly, in talking to you in this, I've been around, I've worked at Mckinley for 5 years. I've been around these things, but I never even thought of it from that aspect before. And so that's really interesting to me at the way that A can influence B or B can influence A.
And typically when we think of hormones and sex, we think, women and estrogen and guys and testosterone.
Yes.
Women have testosterone too, and guys have estrogen too. It's just at different levels and how it works in their body. So from a physical aspect of investigating all those things, if somebody feels that they have a problem, there's a lot of different things we look at. Vitamin D is another thing. It can be low. People can be fatigued and have little to no sex drive, in addition to having trouble with their hair, skin, nails, worried about their appearance because of those things. So there's a lot of different things we can look at to investigate physiological problems that could be affecting someone's sexual health.
It's just fascinating to me. It really is. We could spend a long time talking about that alone just because I have so many questions. And if you're listening and you do have questions, by all means, let us know. I'll have information at the end how you can contact us, how you can interact with us. We want that interaction. And we'd love to do some follow-up on some things. Or maybe touch on topics that you're like, hey, I want to know more about this. And give us some direction because we want this to be this conversation with you. We want you to be a part of it. But for right now, we're just going to move on a little bit. Todd just talked about how the physiological can impact your sexual health and vice versa. But we also know that the mental health plays a huge role into your sexual health, and your sexual health plays a huge role in your mental health. And one of the things that we are fortunate here, but it's also a challenge here at UIUC, is we have an incredibly diverse campus. And it's not just in racial or ethnic or cultural backgrounds, but also in social and economic and just where you're at in your stage of life and age groups. And I know, Jackie, you see a wide variety of students come through the mental health unit. What do you see when you're coming through? How does the diversity of our campus affect the sexual healthiness of our campus?
Yeah, so Matt, I think you're bringing up a really important point here. One of the great things about this campus is the diversity of our student body. And I see students from all different countries and backgrounds and religious backgrounds, and all of these different identities really go into how people think about their bodies, how they think about their own sexual health, what their comfort level is. whether or not they would even have a conversation with anyone outside of their therapist about sexual health. And that's why coming in and seeing a therapist can be so helpful, because students, whatever their different identities and backgrounds are, might just not feel comfortable having these kind of conversations with a friend or a family member, or a roommate. But we hear it all and see it all. And so do not hesitate to come in and talk to us about that, because absolutely all your different identities affect your overall health, including sexual health. And there is, always a good reason to come in and talk to us. Don't think that anything, is too small or too embarrassing to come in and talk about in therapy.
I send a lot of people up to see Jackie or even to see Kate because in coming to school here, we have a lot of people that come to school here that are not sexually active, and they have no experience in that area. And so when they come, they bring with them some of that taboo or sexual baggage, depending on culturally and family-wise and what they came from. And learning to deal with that on the college campus, which can be hyper-sexualized at times, can be very frustrating. And learning, am I ready to be sexually active? How do I go about doing that? Do I need to get tested before I become sexually active? I've actually had people come in and ask that. So we have to look at people, not just what they're doing, but where they've been, what they've been through, and what they want to get to.
Well, and that brings up something I want to ask you guys about as well. An aspect of sexual health that isn't always thought of is that we often see it as high school graduation. You've either waiting to graduate or you've already graduated. And that's the moment when everything's figured out. Students who are waiting to graduate high school think, when I graduate, I'm going to have it figured out. When I have sex the first time, I'm going to have it figured out. But that's not the case. And so we have students on campus who have had sex, who still have questions, who are still going through things. Couples get married, and they still have questions in a relationship of that nature, or they have a long-standing partner, whether married or not, and they have those questions. So, when does sexual health stop being worked on, or is it a lifelong thing you need to look at?
Yeah, that's a great point, Matt, actually, because I think that is the experience that so many students have, is they have expectations or they have pressure that says, hey, you should be a certain way, or you should know this, or you should be doing this. That might not be right for them. And so many students are saying, like, okay, how do I get to the point where I do feel comfortable, where I do feel confident, where I do feel empowered? And that's our goal. That's what we're here to help support you in, because it's a forever thing, because our sexual health is so complex. It's constantly being impacted and influenced by things around us, right? So even stress, like final exams, like I feel like we have so many more students coming in towards the end of the semester because they don't have time or energy to give towards their health and wellness, like you said, Matt. And so they need support kind of getting through that time, or they experience a change in family dynamics, right? Like family can impact sexual health and experiences, and just coming to campus and that kind of change in life can create such challenge for students and curiosities too. So to answer your question, Matt, it's forever. It's an ongoing thing because it is so complex and there's so many things that can impact.
So as you've said, and as we can see, there's not only are we on a diverse campus with people with diverse backgrounds, but there's just a wide variety of things people come in for, things they want to talk about, questions they have. And all these things bring students into Mckinley, or maybe not into Mckinley, but into outreach events or talking to friends, and friends bring it in like this. But because we have such a wide area and you interact with so many, are there any common concerns or any common ideas or questions that you've gotten a lot of that are kind of an underlying this identifies with most of the students? And what are the challenges when students come in, that they come from different backgrounds, that you have to try and figure out, okay, this means this the person I just talked to an hour ago, but now this means something else to somebody now that I'm talking to. What are the challenges that you find and in the common threads throughout the student body?
So, Matt, up in mental health, we really see it all. One thing that I do see fairly regularly is people with a lack of experience with sex, and making that decision about whether or not to have sex and what that means if they do or don't. Even people in their 30s or older who have never had sex and really feeling a ton of stigma, like they're the only ones. And I can tell you they're not, because I've seen multiple people in their 30s who have never had sex, so no, you're not alone. Tons of performance anxiety, and I see this across all ages. I see this from our 18-year-old freshmen up into 30s and older. And it's
Let me stop you for just a second. When you say performance anxiety, what do you mean? Because for a lot of us, performance anxiety means Viagra. That's like that's where you go. That ED, that whole idea, because it's been talked about a lot, and it's a good thing. But what do you mean by performance anxiety?
So with performance anxiety, usually the people I see for performance anxiety are people with penises. Often it's not people with vaginas coming into my office to talk to me about, not being able to sustain performance during intercourse. Usually it's folks with penises, and they are not able to maintain an erection or reach orgasm during intercourse. And so that's what I mean by performance anxiety. And oftentimes, if you just throw Viagra at it, you're really trying to put a Band-Aid on something, and you're treating, one symptom of a much larger problem. And so really being able to address the performance anxiety as a form of anxiety, and how to really shift out of that and get back into your body and be mindful and in the present moment can make a really good difference. And again, I see that among people of all ages. And, if there are people with vaginas experiencing that, I'd love to see them too. I don't see them as much. And of course, shame and embarrassment about sexual health, about your body, having sex. Shame and embarrassment related to STI testing, status, sharing results. We get a lot of that. On the more kind of concerning end of things, sexual trauma, sexual assault, of course, we see. We also see folks with lack of desire, which could be related to their anxiety. It could be related to depression. It could be related to just an enormous amount of stress during finals time or approaching qualifying exams and prelims in their doctoral program. And then we also see, of course, people who are really trying to understand their own sexuality more, how they identify. I've seen a lot more folks who are thinking, maybe I'm asexual, but I don't know, and wanting to talk about that. And so really we see a lot of things related to sexual health, and all are welcome.
I think, when Jackie mentions performance anxiety, that's always the first thing, like you said, that pops into your head. But with a lot of our population that is an experience, it's not just penetrative sex. It's am I doing this right? Am I doing that right? I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to touch somebody in the proper way. And if I do it wrong, are they going to, tell everybody I was bad or something like that, So it can be a very scary time exploring that with people. I've had, experiences where I've met with a newly married couple because he came in initially complaining of some issues of performance anxiety. And then when I had an opportunity to sit down and talk to both of them and learn a little bit more about them, they were both very scared, on how they're supposed to do this right. And so there's a lot that can be learned with communication, just communication with you amongst the two people, amongst the partners, because that's key, because the biggest sex organ is the one in between your shoulders. Your brain is the biggest thing. And that's what I always tell people before I send them up to CK or Jackie, is that we need to talk about this, and you need to work on that aspect of it, because physiologically, you don't have any problem achieving an erection. You don't have any trouble reaching orgasm when you're by yourself, when you're masturbating. But when you're with a partner, you have a problem. So that's a 99% possibility or probability that the problem is up here in your brain.
Well, and you said something that I really want to have Kate address, because I've heard you talk about it before. You said they came in and say, am I doing it right? So Kate, what is right? Because I've heard you talk about this before. What is the, because we all think that, and you have that moment of, that are they going to think I'm bad? Are they going to laugh at me, which is going to make my anxiety worse and make everything worse anyway? And so, am I doing this right? That's a really core question. And so how would you respond to that as a sexual health educator?
Yeah, I think that's probably like 70% of my students, I would say, at one point in our conversation, they say like, well, what am I supposed to be doing? What is it supposed to be like? What's right? And it's so hard for me to help them because it's for them to decide, right? And that's what we really are here to do as professionals, to help them figure things out and help them decide what's right for their body, what's right for them, what's right for their partners, right? But I think both of you kind of talked, Matt and Todd, you both talked about examples of pressure, and a lot of what I do with students is helping them understand where that should or where that right comes from. Does it come from media and commercials for Viagra? Does it come from porn? Does it come from sex ed high school classes that put unrealistic, like expectations on us? Is it coming from a partner or from friends who are telling us that sex should be a certain way, or we should dress a certain way to express our identity, right? Like there's so many shoulds out there. And the truth is that you get to decide, but in that journey of deciding, there's a lot of vulnerability and a lot of trial and error. And so that's a lot of what I help students with, is just kind of setting realistic expectations. Like, no, you are probably not going to have penetrative sex for 60 minutes. You're probably not going to have penetrative sex for 10 minutes, right? So a lot of times, like I ask students a lot of, like Todd said, very personal, very specific questions, because it helps me help them understand what they're really experiencing and what is realistic for them.
Well, and so you guys have hit on a lot of topics that I think are very wide-reaching. Some ideas that are pretty common to most people, but a lot of students and non-students think, well, I'm the only one. I'm the only one who deals with this. But they're listening here and they're going, you know what, that was me. That resonated with me. That's how I've thought that. I've heard, I've said that sort of thing. So if there's a student listening and wants to reach out but doesn't know how, now we'll give some websites, we'll give some contacts at the end. But just from a psychological standpoint, from a courage standpoint, what would you give as advice, or say, hey, this is how you would want to approach it. This is an easy way to approach it. What would you say?
Matt, I would say that the hardest part is making the first appointment. So whether that's with Todd or Kate or me or one of our other lovely providers, that really calling and making the appointment, making that first step is usually the biggest hurdle. And if you can just get yourself to do that, then you're moving in the right direction and you've taken an action step. You move with that momentum and that motivation. And it will be anxiety producing when you come in and see us the first time. That's normal. Don't take that as a reason to not come in. Don't take the knots in your stomach, the sweating, the heart rate. Oh my gosh, this is so scary. I don't know if I want to do this. Because once you get in here and once you see that we're not scary and we don't bite and we're going to help as best we can, then I think you're going to be so relieved by the end of the appointment that you did it.
Jackie, I think it's really important that you brought up not the stigma, but the concern about making that first call, right? Because, we want you to call dial nurse. You don't need a referral to talk to Kate. You can just call dial nurse and say, hey, I want to talk to the sexual health educator. Well, that's a pretty tough thing to say to somebody you just met on the phone, right? So, we're very happy if you make a medical appointment, just say, you want to discuss a personal issue. 15-minute appointment, we can sit down, talk about what's going on. We can examine, maybe you have some comorbidities. Maybe we can do some labs and find out where things are. And we can then kind of funnel you to Jackie or to Kate and get you to the right person to further talk about it. And it's, like Jackie said, it's that first step, making that first initial contact. And if, you don't want to talk to the dial nurse and say, I want to talk to the sexual health educator, just make a medical appointment.
Yeah, you don't always have to have a name for it, right? I think that's a common thing. Like, students don't know how to name what they're experiencing, and that's totally okay. You can say things like personal health. If you can say sexual health, it doesn't have to be specific. We're here to help kind of get through the weeds and figure out how to help you name or understand what you're going through. I think the one thing I would add is that I think all too often, I think all of us can say that it's hard to see what the discomfort and the challenge and the isolation that students experience. And so if reaching out for an appointment or getting connected to community on campus is going to help you feel freedom from that pressure or from that isolation or that embarrassment or that frustration that you're experiencing because of a challenge or a curiosity that you have, like, it is so worth that first phone call. So we want to help free you from some of those negative feelings that you might be going through and get you to positive feelings.
So we're going to wrap this up just a little bit, but you guys, you've all talked about it, that the Mckinley is very, that we want to help, that we're here to help, that we're here to that just meet you where you're at. And so I appreciate you being here, being a part of this. We'll give some links and some things you can do, ways you can connect, and some ways you can respond. But Kate, Todd, Jackie, I really appreciate you being here, talking about this. And maybe we'll continue the conversation if the students respond, however they do respond, we'll continue on this. But I just want to thank you guys for taking time out today to talk to me.
Thanks,
Thanks
man.
so much.
Good to be here.
Sexual health is so important, and it influences so many areas and so many aspects of our lives. And because of that idea, no matter where you are in your journey, you have a sexual health to care for. And maintaining that health, it needs to be intentional, and it needs to be addressed, and it needs to be a conscious effort because it is so important. So again, I want to thank Kate and Jackie and Todd for coming on and speaking with me today. But these are just a few of the people on campus who are here to help you with this. So whether you're confident and comfortable in your sexual health, whether you're actively trying to figure out what that means for you, or not sure where to start or even what to ask, there are a number of resources here at UIUC. But thank you for joining us today. You are on a personal journey no matter where you are in it. You are important and you matter. Your health and wellness are important and matter. And we are here to keep you well to excel. So go have a great week. Let us know how you're doing, and we'll catch up with you next week on Healthy Illini.